Unlike my usual content on the channel where it would be more hyper-energetic and happy-go-lucky, this is a video that is going to be more of a serious approach, as this is a conversation that I do feel like needs to happen here. And it does relate to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, I want to make it very, very clear that this is not a video to bash on Pokemon. It's not a video to incite any behaviors of the sort that revolves around negativity. This is a video that I would like to have a conversation with you guys with, and I would also like to hear you guys out in the comments down below, because in my honest opinion, the current state of Pokemon is something that unfortunately does need to be addressed. Now real quick, this video will be timestamped, so if you want to skip ahead to a part that interests you the most, then you will be able to do that by clicking on the timestamps in the description down below. So what sparked this video actually came from this article here on Dexerto that is titled, "Pokemon Needs to Go Back to Basics in 2024. After a shaky year containing disappointing titles, it's time for the Pokemon franchise to return to its roots in 2024. There's no denying that the Pokemon franchise has had a rough year, at least in terms of critical and fan response. The series continues to print money as a multimedia entity, so the Pokémon Company might not care much about online perception as long as the games sell. And sell they have. Despite Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being criticized for their shoddy performance, poor visuals, baffling removal of long-standing quality-of-life features, and an underbaked open world, they sold incredibly well, approaching the best-selling entries in the series in terms of sales. As of the time of writing, no new Pokemon games have been announced for 2024, except for a free Pokemon Scarlet and Violet epilogue. This likely won't stay true for long, especially with Pokemon Day fast approaching, but hopefully the lessons of 2023 will be on display in whatever new games are released. What went wrong with new Pokemon releases in 2023? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet launched in a sorry state, but that doesn't necessarily mean a game is condemned forever. Cyberpunk 2077 proved in 2023 that it's possible to update a game to the point where it becomes incredible, leaving the empty husk of the launch build behind. For Gen 9, this could have happened with the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero expansion for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which featured 2 DLC updates, the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc. The fans hoping for a performance update alongside the DLC were left disappointed, as the games are still just as big of a mess now as they were at launch. There are still bugs in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that haven't been addressed in over a year. The DLC was also a letdown. The Teal Mask was incredibly short and didn't offer much that wasn't in the base game. The Indigo Disc had a bit more content, but it felt like a tacked on post-game segment, the kind that used to be part of the games for free. Outside of the Gen 9 games, there was also the underwhelming Detective Pikachu Returns and the bizarre Pokemon Sleep, both of which were forgettable and quickly lost fans' interest. What's wrong with the Pokemon series in 2023? The issue with the mainline games is that the Pokemon franchise isn't ready for the open world style, at least not in the way the developers have been attempting. Pokemon Legends Arceus was an excellent release, and it managed to create the feel of an open-world game while having a segmented overworld. Meanwhile, the mainline games have been trying to emulate that grand scope, but have been falling short. The worlds of the new Pokemon games feel underwhelming because of the aging Nintendo Switch hardware, struggling to keep up with the ambitions of the developers, and a brutal schedule that cannot be messed with, as new Pokemon games are tied to the multimedia franchise. The comparatively short development cycle of the Pokemon games means that the production team just doesn't have the time to create these vast worlds, especially with the Switch chugging away in the background. Outside of Gen 9, you have Pokemon Sleep, whose concept tries to make falling asleep into a video game despite that action being the opposite of engaging. Meanwhile, the buzz surrounding Detective Pikachu spin-offs has long since died, so why make more, especially a low-effort title? Pokemon needs to go back to its roots. There are few candidates for the next Pokemon games, the Gen 10 games. Another Pokemon Legends, another Pokemon Let's Go, or the rumored Gen 5 remakes. Whatever the case, the best thing for the Pokemon franchise is a title that matches the series' strengths. We need Pokemon games that harken back to the classic JRPG style that built the franchise. This would be a Pokemon game in the traditional style, one that focuses on a smaller setting. The Gen 5 remakes would be an excellent candidate for this approach, as would Let's Go games set in the Johto region, especially considering the popularity of their original games. It would also help if these games reversed some of the ridiculous quality of life changes put into recent entries. The Pokémon Company could prove that it's listening to fans by bringing back things like a removable EXP share or the ability to skip battle animations. This more streamlined experience doesn't necessarily have to be put into the Gen 10 games. There's room for a Pokemon side series with a retro feel that appeals to old school fans. Dare we say, one that's more challenging than the main line entries. This isn't to say that the Pokemon franchise should never experiment with new ideas. After all, Pokemon Legends Arceus might be the best entry in the series on the Nintendo Switch. It's just important for the franchise not to lose sight of its identity and for its team to recognize the limits of what it can accomplish in the time allotted. If the rumored Nintendo Switch successor is a technical powerhouse, then maybe that will be the system to host an amazing Pokemon open world adventure and do the concept justice. That time has yet to arrive, however, and the Pokemon Company needs to work on winning back the fans alienated by Gen 9. Okay, so that was a lot to go through, but I wanted to set the table properly with all of the context needed before we go further. And this article really did highlight a lot of concerns that fans do have, because I know that the majority of concerns highlighted here are concerns that have at least crossed my mind. And personally speaking, the biggest concern/criticism that I have of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet would be its shoddy performance, okay? The performance issues have been something that I have never ever seen out of Pokemon games, which is pretty damn insane if you think about it. It's also interesting because Pokemon Sword and Shield and Pokemon Legends Arceus, even though they are not open world games, they are games that have a lot of open areas, so not too dissimilar from the concept of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, yet those games ran beautifully. And beautifully in comparison, because I'm sure those games have had hiccups here or there, but personally speaking, I have not seen or detected any of those hiccups, at least not in a major way. Now, this isn't to take a crap all over Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The contents of the game itself is absolutely wonderful. The Paradox Pokemon, completely awesome. The 3 storylines tied into one overarching story was also really freaking nice. The characters, the new batches of Pokemon, all of which were really freaking cool. But unfortunately, a lot of the positives that I had just listed off are in serious competition of being overshadowed, if you will, by the negatives, by the performance issues, and all of the other things that are worthy of criticism when it comes to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I mean, you have to be honest with yourselves. Like, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are not the best running games, and they've been out for over a year now. Now, I also want to point this out here. Game Freak is not 100% at fault here. Yes, they do share some of the blame because the games do come from them, but they answer to a higher power, that being the Pokemon Company themselves. They are the ones that are arranging all of these really, really crazy and almost unrealistic timetables on them, getting them to work on things en masse in such a short period of time. Like, here's something to put into perspective here. Between November 2021 and November 2022, we have had a total of 3 entries, 5 games released. That being Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, so 2 games, 1 entry, Pokemon Legends Arceus, 1 game, 1 entry, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, 2 games, 1 entry. What does that tell you? It tells you that there are only 2 words to say in unison. Slow down. Like, seriously, slow down. Like, what is the rush here? Like, Pokemon Company, you ever hear of the saying, you can't rush perfection? Now, I understand that, you know, there will never be a 100% objective up and down the board Pokemon game that's considered perfect. But you can come pretty damn close to perfection if you have time on your side, okay? Time to experiment, time to iron out issues, tie up any loose ends. I am honestly sure that the entirety of the Pokemon fanbase, or at least the majority of them, would be completely fine if it took an extra year or even 2 years to release a new Pokemon game, if it means that it's going to be higher quality and that we actually do get our bang for our buck. It can never ever be overstated that the fans are the lifeblood of the Pokemon franchise, okay? Without the fans, like, for anything really, then everything would crumble, it would fall over, and it would not succeed. So, to say that the Pokemon Company needs to listen to their fans is a long overdue understatement. And consider this, guys. You are paying over $60 for either Pokemon Scarlet or Pokemon Violet. And you might even be paying more depending on the currency of your country. Now, that is just the base game. That is not inclusive of the DLC. When you also add in the purchase of the DLC, according to Nintendo support here, it is $34.99 US. So you add those prices up. That right there is like the equivalent of a night out. That right there is the equivalent of getting an expensive steak meal. Now, you would think that with that type of money that you are shelling out, that you are going to get good quality, because quality is expected, at least in terms of a really good steak place. However, when it comes to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the quality isn't quite right, okay? It doesn't exactly match up with the money that you were putting out for those games. Now, I know that there's going to be people that are going to make the argument of, well, they sell really well. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have really, really high sales. Well, here's the thing, alright, is that high sales don't equal quality. I mean, we can take any fast food joint as an example, say McDonald's, okay? Something very, very well known globally. McDonald's is a fast food place, yet despite that, they make lots and lots of money. Now, we can apply that logic right there too, that high sales equal high quality. Well, if that's the case right there, then McDonald's should be putting out high quality food. You know what I'm saying? Now, am I trying to make the equivalence of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being McDonald's? No. Absolutely not. There's really, really good content in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that warrants tremendous praise. However, unfortunately, the contents of the package, that being Gen 9 games, are unfortunately wrapped up really poorly. And the poor wrapping is the poor performance issues, the glitches, etc. Now, do I think that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is a complete abject failure? No. Absolutely not. I mean, it's Pokemon. I don't think Pokemon's ever going to be an abject failure unless something really, really bad happens. But here's the thing, okay, is that Pokemon, you really, really cannot take your successes for granted, because it's because of the fans that you have the successes. You know what I'm saying? So I would probably want to pay a little bit more respect and a little bit more attention to your fans. You know what I'm saying, Pokemon? Like, look it, if Cyberpunk 2077 can improve its sorry state to the point where it's actually the complete opposite, well, then you can too. Now, I know that Pokemon is not exactly known for, you know, having high quality graphics and all that stuff, and that's not exactly something that I care the most for. I mean, yes, it would be visually pleasing, but it's not the be-all, end-all type of thing, you know what I mean? Like, we have had past Pokemon games that have had lesser graphical quality do exceptional, you know what I'm saying? Like, as an example, like, if we go back to the 2D era of the Pokemon games, those were absolutely fantastic. Those were some of the best times that I've ever had as a Pokemon fan. Like, at least go back to basics until we have a new version of the Nintendo Switch released where it's faster, stronger, more up to date. You know what I mean? And please, for the love of God, bring back some of the best OG quality of life features. One such example would be the unlimited usage of TMs. Back in Generation 5 all the way to Generation 8, you could use TMs as much as you want. But in Generation 9, it's like we went back to Generation 4, where TMs are suddenly consumable again. I don't exactly get why they did that. And another example of a really good feature that they should bring back would be the Battle Frontier / Battle Tower. When the Battle Frontier was a thing in Generation 3 and in Generation 4 as well with its own variation, you had hours of extra post-game content and replayability potential just from that feature right there. And yet here we are in Generation 9 and we don't even have a Battle Tower equivalent feature in the games, which is honestly really sad in my opinion. And all of what I've discussed here so far kind of contributes to why I haven't even finished part 1 of the DLC in the live streams. It's because, honestly, the performance issues really took a big hit for me when it comes to wanting to play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And it's also still a thing, even to this very day, where there are still performance issues that are plaguing the Gen 9 games. So if anyone's wondering why I haven't gotten on to continuing the live playthrough of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, well, that's why. That's a very big reason why. It's not that I've lost motivation or, you know, lost the love and the interest of creating content for you guys. Nah, I'm a daily uploader. With the exception of the last few days, I've kind of been taking it easy a little bit because, come on, it is the Christmas holidays. I think we owe it to ourselves to take it easy and to relax and enjoy the holidays and enjoy yourselves. I love making content for you guys, but the thing is that when it comes to content revolving around Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and the state that it's in, I'm sorry, but it's like, that right there is kind of something that I would like to, you know, I would like to be able to finish that stuff, but the performance issues is just a really big, like, you know, it sticks out like a sore thumb, you know what I mean? I do plan on finishing the playthrough of the DLC part 1 and 2, and I am also aware that the Pokemon Horizons anime is on a hiatus for 2 or 3 weeks, so that right there could kind of open up some opportunities to jump on and finish it with the best damn community that there ever is, was, and always will be, that being the legendary Crasher community. All of you beautiful people. Here's hoping, though, that my capture card still works after all the time of dormancy. I have to kind of dust it off a little bit. Oh boy. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, these right here are just kind of my own thoughts and criticisms about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, about the state of Pokemon in general. I mean, all of this can be wrapped up to 2 single words, that being, to the Pokemon Company, wake up. Understand that things are not a race. Also understand that you have real people that work for you, and you are enforcing all of these really tight and unreasonable timetables on them, forcing them to rush out half-baked stuff to Pokemon fans. And here's the thing, is it also affects us too. It doesn't just affect those that work hard for you, it also affects the very individuals that supplement your success and income. Now, I know there's gonna be some purists out there that, you know, might try to defend Pokemon or try to defend Game Freak, and hey, that's totally cool, man, you know, like, your opinion's your opinion. But also at the same time, I do hope that you at least understand that there are flaws that need to be addressed and looked into, and the concerns and the flaws are very much valid and should not be downplayed or ignored. Anyways, guys, that's it here for the video. It went on a little bit longer than expected, so I do apologize for that, but I guess I had a lot to say, really and truly. So with that being said, guys, what are your thoughts and opinions about what we discussed here in this video? Do you agree? Do you disagree with my takes? Either way, I love hearing back from you guys in the comments down below. And that's it for the video, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for your time as well in viewing this video. Again, my apologies for the length. Have yourselves a good rest of your day or night, depending on your time zone. And also, have a good rest of your holidays. And I'll see you guys next time.